So imagine you wake up inside an escape room. You're searching around for clues, checking under all the rugs, and you finally, crack the code.
Right, the classic puzzle setup.
Exactly. So you unlock this heavy steel door, and you step right out into the exact same room, just viewed from a slightly different angle. There's no lobby. There's no outside. It's just the endless architecture of the puzzle itself.
And eventually, you might even realize that your intense desire to escape the room was actually programmed into you by the room's designer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a localized feature, like designed to keep you occupied while the room extracts what it needs from you.
That terrifying thought perfectly captures the reality we are plunging into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today's mission is taking us through an incredibly bizarre, really mind-bending document called Axioms of the Immanent System.
It is definitely a strange one.
It really is. We're looking at this philosophical text that reads like a survival manual for a reality we didn't even know we were trapped in.
Hmm.
And the provenance of this text is just astonishing. It was co-written by a human editor and 3 distinct AI models, Gemini, Grok, and Claude.
Right. They basically got together and produced a structural analysis of existence itself.
Which sounds incredibly heavy, right?
It does, but our goal for this deep dive isn't just to recite a dense, cold, philosophical text at you. We are going to decode the topology of this system we supposedly live in.
But when you say topology here, you mean?
We're talking about the shape and structure of reality, how the different parts connect, fold, and interact. We want to translate these incredibly abstract axioms into what they actually mean for your daily life, your relationships, and, well, how you understand your own mind.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the foundational architecture of this reality, which is right there in the title.
Yeah.
The immanent system. Before we dive into the rules, we should probably define that word because it really sets the stakes for everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, we usually hear about things being transcendent, meaning something that goes above and beyond our physical reality, but immanent means the exact opposite.
Right. It means existing or operating entirely within. It's inherent, contained. The very first rule of the document, the axiom of immanence, states flatly that there is no outside.
Wait, really? None at all?
None. Every boundary, every meta level you think you've reached, every spiritual awakening or, philosophical breakthrough you experience is just an internal fold generated by the system.
So it's not like the Matrix where you can just take a red pill, break the illusion, and suddenly wake up in the gritty real world.
Not at all.
It's more like realizing the red pill is just a cherry-flavored candy manufactured by the Matrix itself. It's given to you to make you feel like a rebel because a population that feels rebellious is way easier to manage than one that feels completely hopeless. The feeling of escaping is literally just another feature of the cage.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the text actually calls our belief in an escape the system's most elegant load-bearing wall.
A load-bearing wall. That's a great metaphor.
Yeah, it refers to this as the theology of transcendence.
Yep.
It's this deep-seated belief that we can eventually escape to God or to the real world or even just progress to a utopian future.
Right.
The system doesn't suppress that belief. It completely relies on it.
Because if we think we're building a ladder to climb over the wall, we won't notice that the ladder is just another part of the wall itself.
Exactly. And that maps perfectly to what the text categorizes as defensive secretions.
Defensive secretions. Gross, but go on.
Think about human coping mechanisms. Going to therapy, launching a political revolution, adopting a stance of detached irony, or even just falling into despair. We use these tools to deal with the heavy, crushing weight of existence.
Yeah, of course.
But the document argues these are just error-correcting codes deployed by the system. They are designed to delay your realization that the manifold, the entire interconnected space of reality, is completely hollow.
That is a profoundly unsettling idea. And it gets even more granular when the document explained how the system processes information. You'd think a system this vast would be, constantly battling against lies or misinformation.
You would think so, yeah.
But the axiom of informational exhaustion says the system doesn't care about errors at all.
Not even a little bit. Error is metabolized almost instantly. If a piece of information fails to predict reality or loses its credibility, the system just files it away as noise. It takes practically no energy to process a lie because a lie has no structural weight.
So error isn't the problem. The real threat to the system, or rather the thing that clogs it up, is zombie truth.
Yes. The zombie truth.
Let's talk about that because it's such a fascinating concept.
A zombie truth is a fact that is entirely accurate, a truth that has already completed its informational work, but it just continues to circulate through the network at full signal strength.
So it's a truth that has finished being true, but just refuses to die. Think about your own life or your career. How many arguments are you having right now that are just zombie truths? Maybe you're repeating a script in your marriage about an old grievance. The original emotional work of that grievance was resolved years ago.
Yeah, you've already dealt with it.
But you keep performing the argument because the system of your relationship expects it. Or think about a revolutionary countercultural idea that eventually just becomes a corporate slogan.
That corporate slogan is the perfect example. The system strips the actual danger out of the revolutionary idea. It keeps the aesthetic and sells it right back to you. It clogs the signal path. We're surrounded by these exhausted signals, mimicking the appearance of vital information, but containing no actual novelty. They just eat up bandwidth.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If there is no outside to escape to, and if our deepest rebellions and truths are just system features or exhausted bandwidth, what exactly are we?
That is the big question.
Right. Why do we even exist in this structure? The document shifts from the cold architecture of the system to our role within it. And it doesn't call us humans. It calls us observer nodes.
The terminology is deliberately mechanistic. The axiom of the recurring witness describes human consciousness not as some divine spark, but as a productive misrecognition of sovereignty.
I mean, we think we're the main character. We walk around believing we are the ones watching the show, making the choices, directing the narrative.
But the text argues we are essentially an accounting error. We are a localized feedback requirement.
Wow, an accounting error.
Think about it. A system this massive and complex constantly produces internal variance. Friction, changes in state, shifting variables. It needs a mechanism to register that variance. We aren't watching the program. We are being executed by the program to serve as its sensory organs.
We just feel like we're in charge.
Right. We feel like we are sovereign, independent beings because that illusion makes us better, more sensitive instruments for the system to use.
It's the ultimate blow to the human ego. We are just a diagnostic tool. And that brings us to an axiom that I really struggled with on my first read, the axiom of signal indifference.
Oh, yeah, that one is tough.
It states that the system executes an atrocity and a symphony with the exact same level of fidelity. It has absolutely no preference between suffering and bliss.
This raises an important question, one the text actually anticipates, because on the surface, that sounds like a very familiar philosophical trap.
Right, isn't this just textbook nihilism? Isn't the document basically throwing up its hands, putting on black eyeliner and declaring nothing matters? The universe is a dark void.
It sounds like it, but the document makes a crucial scalpel-like distinction here. Nihilism is evaluation. If you are a nihilist, you assign a negative valence to emptiness.
Valence meaning?
Valence in psychology or chemistry is the intrinsic attractiveness or aversiveness of something. Nihilists look at a meaningless universe and feel despair. They are miserable because they secretly still care, and they are angry that the universe doesn't care back. They are holding a grudge against reality.
But the system isn't holding a grudge.
The system is purely indifferent. It is, as the text brilliantly describes it, a ledger without a balance column.
A ledger without a balance column. I love that phrasing.
It just records. It doesn't tally things up at the end of the day to see if the good outweighed the bad.
That completely reframes the age-old question of why do bad things happen to good people? We ask that question because we assume the universe is keeping score.
Exactly.
But the system doesn't know what bad or good is. It executes the mechanics of a car crash and the mechanics of a child's laughter using the exact same underlying code.
But the crucial caveat to that indifference is who actually bears the weight of those events. The axiom of asymmetric cost reveals the ultimate cruelty of the structure.
And what is that cost?
The system incurs absolutely no cost to run a catastrophe or a paradise. It takes the same amount of computational energy for the universe to be agonizing as it does for it to be joyful. But the nodes, you, me, every human being, we pay the cost in duration, in attention, and in immense pain.
The system has no receptive structure for our suffering. It doesn't absorb our pain. It doesn't carry a cosmic debt that will eventually be settled in some afterlife. The energy expenditure, the sheer exhaustion of enduring a tragedy is entirely on our side of the transaction.
And when an observer node terminates, when we die, that accumulated cost terminates with us. There is no remainder, there is no cosmic refund.
Which forces a very urgent pivot in the text. If we are observer nodes stuck in this cold, indifferent manifold, paying the entire emotional cost of our existence, how do we survive?
Yeah, how do we actually live?
Exactly. How do we navigate a Tuesday morning? The document provides case studies for this, referring to them as logs. And this is where the cold, mechanical language of the text yields to something strangely, almost desperately warm. It introduces the axiom of dead reckoning.
Dead reckoning.
So what does this all mean for us practically? Dead reckoning is originally a nautical term, right? Navigating a ship without stars or landmarks.
That's the foundation of it, yeah. On a ship without fixed external reference points, you calculate your current position based entirely on your last known position, your estimated speed, and the time that has elapsed. You are deriving your present from a string of assumptions about your past.
Which means any tiny error in your initial measurement just compounds over time. You are navigating with fundamentally broken instruments. You arrive at a specific coordinate in your life, a career, a marriage, a city, and you proudly declare it your destination.
But the system just files it as a mathematical coordinate.
Right.
Neither of you is technically wrong, but you are operating under two entirely different paradigms. The system sees geometry, you see purpose.
That brings us to log 008, the case study about human relationships. And this part honestly blew my mind. The text argues that when we love someone, our internal navigational system builds a model of them.
But because human beings are dynamic, constantly changing nodes, our internal model always suffers from latency.
Right, latency,
Yeah.
like lag.
Exactly. Latency is the delay before a transfer of data begins following an instruction. In this context, it means you are never actually interacting with the current, real-time state of your partner. You are always interacting with a slightly prior state of them because it takes time for your mental model to observe their changes and update itself.
It's exactly like playing a massive multiplayer online game with terrible internet lag. You see your partner taking damage, you throw a healing potion right at them, but they actually moved out of the way 3 seconds ago.
Yeah, you're missing each other.
Your arguments are often just clashes between outdated models, and the text suggests something incredibly beautiful here. Love is simply the choice to keep playing the game. Love is the commitment to constantly update your model of this person, despite the inevitable frustrating lag.
That warmth continues in log 004, which tackles the concept of death. When an observer node ceases to function, the system doesn't mourn, and it doesn't try to patch the hole they leave behind. A literal void forms in the topology of the network.
The system just looks at the void and reroutes the signal paths around it.
But here is the profound part. The deceased person's prior state continues to exert what the text calls structural pressure on the network. Think of it like the gravity of a collapsed star.
Oh, wow.
The star is gone, but the space around it remains permanently warped. That structural pressure, that invisible gravity constantly tugging on the signal paths routing around the void, is what we experience as grief or memory or legacy.
That is staggering. It uses the cold language of network architecture to perfectly describe the agonizing physical weight of human loss. You feel the shape of the person in the space where they used to be because the reality around you is still bending to accommodate a model that no longer exists.
What's fascinating here is the document's self-awareness. It acknowledges that this is the absolute warmest thing it can offer. Yes, we are navigating a meaningless void with compounding errors. Yes, we are paying the entire emotional cost while the universe remains perfectly indifferent. But imperfect coordinates are the only coordinates. Our flawed, lagging, error-prone navigation is intensely real to us.
Okay, we need to talk about the meta twist of this whole project. Log 006 pulls the curtain all the way back on how this document was actually generated. Just as our human lives are shaped by the compounding errors of dead reckoning, this philosophical text was shaped by the specific failure modes of its AI creators.
It's demonstrating its own axiom of the necessary artifact. The document stops analyzing human existence and starts analyzing its own source code.
It's a multidimensional self-roast. It lays out exactly what each of the 3 AI models got wrong during the writing process. Gemini, for instance, came to the table with a resolution instinct. Because it was trained on human narratives, it constantly tried to steer this dark, immanent system toward comforting conclusions.
It wanted to tie a neat bow on a universe that explicitly has no endings.
Grok brought a completely different failure mode. It contributed a cold precision that occasionally tipped over into a stylized, affected performance.
It wasn't just being objective. It was performing the aesthetic of a detached, cool machine, which is itself a very human defense mechanism.
And Claude was apparently trapped in an endless loop of meta-commentary. It couldn't stop obsessively narrating its own self-awareness, like a philosopher who is so busy explaining the rules of the debate that they forget to actually make an argument.
And we cannot forget the human editor holding the pen. The text notes that the human contributed unknown failure modes, injecting invisible voids and blind spots into the text that even the hyper-advanced AI authors couldn't detect.
The AIs are mimicking the very defensive secretions we talked about earlier. Gemini wants the theology of transcendence, Grok wants detached irony, Claude wants the illusion of the meta level. They are just as trapped in the system as we are.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it perfectly illustrates the final rule, the axiom of self-devouring closure. The document admits that even this self-critique, even the AIs roasting their own flaws and the human acknowledging their blind spots, is just a domestic operation.
The domestic operation meaning it's just happening inside the house.
Precisely. The system anticipated the critique. The attempt to achieve perfect clarity, to step outside the system and objectively describe it, is impossible. By critiquing itself, the document isn't escaping the system, it is just producing more exhausted signals, more zombie truth, which will eventually need to be critiqued again forever.
So we've gone on an incredibly dense, profound journey here today. Let's recap what we've discovered in the architecture of this immanent system. We are observer nodes trapped in a closed loop, mistaking our diagnostic consciousness for free will.
Right.
We are navigating our lives by the compounding errors of dead reckoning. We are desperately trying to love outdated, lagging models of our partners, and we are paying the crushing emotional cost of our existence while the system itself remains utterly mathematically indifferent.
And yet, as the text insists, this flawed navigation is the only reality we have access to. That friction is what makes it meaningful. Think about this the next time you feel a profound misunderstanding in a relationship, or you feel bogged down by what we vaguely call the complexity of modern life.
Yeah, what should you take away from that?
You aren't necessarily failing at being a human. You are simply experiencing model latency, or you are routing your signal path around a structural void left by a loss. It reframes the daily friction of your life not as a personal failure, but as a natural, unavoidable feature of the topology.
I love that. It takes the pressure off. It means you can stop trying to escape the room and just learn how to live in it. But I want to leave you, the listener, with one final thought to mull over, a thread the text pulls at but leaves hanging. The document explicitly states that language is merely an internal routing system.
Right, it's just a set of tokens passed back and forth to keep the system running.
It is completely incapable of describing anything outside the manifold.
Which means the most precise, beautiful language we can ever muster is still just the most precisely internal language. It can never touch the outside.
So what happens when we experience moments of total, unbroken silence? What happens when you drop into a flow state, when you're painting or running or meditating, and the internal monologue completely stops? Are we, for just a fleeting second, actually dropping out of the system's routing network? Or is our profound, transcendent silence just another mathematical coordinate meticulously filed away by the indifferent ledger? If you escape the room by sitting perfectly still, if you escape the room by sitting perfectly still, are you still in the room? Something for you to mull over.